Today is Wednesday, January 10th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Ghost. To my left is MMA Junkie Radio's fight analyst, Dan Tom. Not next to me right now is Gorgeous George, but he's probably walking to the studio very gingerly. And back in New York, usually it's producer Danny Olkers, but today it's Chris Hamels. What's up, Chris?
How you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Excited. We have a packed show today.
Yeah, we do. Did you see that depressed star thing I sent you, Chris?
I did. It's amazing.
How cool is that? It's totally true, though.
It goes.
Uh-huh.
Just curious. Any way to change that once that's going? Little description in there? That's good. That little one?
I think if you click on the three buttons, the three little dots.
It'll let me do that right
It
now.
should give you the option to edit. I believe. I'm not sure, though.
Well, we're going to go for that now.
These are the type of things you'll hear during the pre-show.
That's right.
That's how we get ready for the show. Chris, what was the best movie of 2017? What did you thoroughly enjoy?
It's a real tough choice. I know what movie I did not enjoy. That was Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Was there another one that just shit the bed?
None that I could think of off the top of my head. There's a lot of bad movies from 2017.
The new, what are they, Avengers? That looks pretty good.
I really liked Thor Ragnarok. Liked that. I'm excited for Black Panther. Yeah, but it suffers from Guardians syndrome, meaning it's trying to mix the humor and action, and it just doesn't do it well.
Tough balance.
Every movie's trying to be like Guardians of the Galaxy and Deadpool.
Yeah. I thought Deadpool, I liked it, but I thought they even went like enough already, you know, like, hold on one sec, Chris. What? He left early. He was here though? Yeah.
1 minute.
1 minute. But I only noticed that after I watched it a few times.
Yeah, well, once you see the movie a few times, it gets old.
Yeah, day one, I was all about it. Superhero that curses? I'm in. One minute. I couldn't sleep last night, guys. I stayed up all night.
Better be awake. We have a guest-heavy show today.
Yeah, why couldn't you sleep?
Because I fell asleep, but then I got woken up
30
a few
seconds,
times,
guys.
and then I just couldn't get back in.
All right, here we go.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long. We roll
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Ghost.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes. Our East co-host, back east, handling all the producing duties, is Dan Yolkers. Yolkers. And, of course, to the left, our latest addition to the show, it's Dan Tom, the fight analyst.
Stop. You tried to throw us off.
I did.
I don't appreciate that. But it's not Dan Yolkers. Today it's Chris Hamels.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's up, Chris? How you doing?
He's got to have his own...
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Give him a tagline, though.
Pissed Chris?
Pissed Chris?
Sometimes he gets angry, right?
You get angry, Chris?
That could also mean he's drunk, though,
Well,
right?
doesn't everybody?
Yeah, it could also mean he gets sauced from time to time. All right, so here we are on a Hump Day edition of MMA Junkie Radio. Mixed martial arts is what we generally talk about. Sometimes in the chat room I'll say, hey, I thought we were talking fights all the time. You know, because I go in there and check out the comments later on. And a few of those come in just because we touched on the national championship. That was an awesome game, though, wasn't it?
It was good.
How do you not touch on the NFL playoffs throughout the weekend? And we're
Sweet.
halfway to another set of 4 games. And then how about yesterday? The Theory is back in action. We sweated that game out, didn't we?
That was...
Wasn't it fun, though?
Yeah, I was just texting a buddy of mine saying, like, hey, are you sitting there kind of like Pookie right now waiting for something? And I think the one thing that came in is probably going to be a no-go. But...
No, I think it is. I think there's a go. Isn't there?
Students.
Oh, Oh, damn
Yeah.
it. Okay. All right. But you know what? We're also getting closer to Sunday's show. Sunday, not Saturday. Sunday show.
Sunday.
Yeah, and then next week we start up with Bellator and UFC. We get into the pay-per-view business with the UFC, and then of course Bellator's got. I think they're going to be 10 polls. I mean, Lima versus, defending his belt versus McDonald, along with the initiation of the heavyweight Grand Prix in LA. That sounds like a 10 poll to me. So that's huge for Bellator, and I heard this on Luke's show, so I'm kind of stealing this line, but Bellator did kind of fizzle out towards the end of last year. Like, they just didn't have big name fights, and I think they're front loaded. So that's a good thing. Good thing for them. Good thing for the UFC, and even after that pay-per-view in Boston, which is not this Sunday but the following Saturday. After that, we got Orlando, I think, is in the works. It just starts to really, really take off, and also LFA. We're going to be talking to the headliner from LFA. That's on Friday. I'll be there in Costa Mesa, California at the hangar for that show, headlined by Curtis Millender, who will be a guest of ours, along with the play-by-play announcer for Access TV, Ron Kruck. So we have a lot of guests to throw your way, and then sandwiched in between, we'll take calls, 866-522-2846, and, just cover the latest news.
When you're at the hangar, if that security guard that kicked me out of Invicta is there, can you put a cigarette out on his forehead?
I wouldn't remember what he looked like, but would you?
I have a picture.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Send me the picture.
One of the people that was there when I got kicked out took a picture of him.
Yeah, you know who is one of the guys that runs security?
For the hangar?
Yeah.
Who?
Woody's brother, Eddie.
Really?
Yeah, because
Excellent.
he's a former cop in Costa Mesa.
I was just thinking of him this morning,
and
believe it or not.
I could ask him and say, so, tell me about your crew. And if he says, there's this pain-in-the-ass guy.
Oh, I'd love to sit him down in a chair and just pace around him.
But I couldn't put a cigarette out on him. For one, I don't even think you can smoke in there. But what I could do is have, like, a Coke, a big old jumbo Coke, and then, and spill it on him maybe. Could do that. That's harmless. He may catch a cold. That's, like, the worst thing that can happen. I definitely make him sticky on his ride home to work. Or on his ride home on his ride home to home.
Right.
That sounds weird.
Wait,
on his ride home. There you go. I should just stop at right home.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah. I'll still a big Coke on him. Yeah. Just man, that's my bad.
I picture Goes, help me out here. This is right up your guys' alley.
Because he was rude to you.
Very rude.
Yeah, and you got to stick up for your card.
You do. Well, I picture Goes like if he's at the show, not even being able to enjoy the fights. Like, it could be the craziest fight going on, but I picture Goes like either Carlito's Way or Scarface. Either way, Pacino. He's in the club and he's just kind of staring at this guy dancing with this girl. He's just he can't let it go. Like, that's Goes.
Actually, it was both of them.
Both of the movies. The other scenes, the Sean Penn one,
Kleinfeld.
Yeah, Kleinfeld. Yes. Yeah.
Like an alligator when you go to an alligator park and they're just sitting there and they have that stupid smile. That's what Kleinfeld looked like.
Where? What scene?
Carlito's Way when Carlito's girls getting freaked on by some other dude.
Oh yeah, he
had that stupid alligator face.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I watched the last 45 minutes of Carlito's Way yesterday. Yeah, because when I went to New York for that viewing party at Samsung 837, this was this past June. I got to spend a few days there, and remember I told you I went to visit our Aunt Sonia? Well, to get there, you have to go through Grand Central Station. And it's funny because I walked from my hotel there, and as soon as you go in, you see those escalators where that scene goes down where he's shooting the guys from Tony T's gang. Or what do they call them? The Mafia. I mean, that little crew that he has, right? God, I'm so stuck on the word cartel and gang. But, yeah, their group. And I really wanted to take a video of me going down the escalator like Carlito. But I was the Lone Ranger. Like if Juliet or you or someone was there, I wanted to take that and see if anybody would guess
that would have been
who I was. Just laying there and doing it, you know. Obviously no gun. I would just use my hands. I mean, you don't want to mess around in Grand Central because that's a huge deal.
You could call Sam. You could play Pachanga, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Do a whole scene about it. It'd be awesome.
Pretty much, yeah. But I saw it, and I'm telling you, like, I don't get starstruck. And I don't get, like, overwhelmed, I guess, too often. But there are certain times where I'm, like, tickled to death, like, about something. The other day was Lorenz Tate here at the Mandalay Bay. Just because I saw him so many times in that movie, Menace to Society. And then he did well in the movie Crash. But Menace to Society was really what, brought him out. So I was a little bit of a schoolgirl when I saw him. I mean, it wouldn't have hurt my feelings if I didn't get a quick pick. But I did. He was really cool. But he was talking MMA, which is what kind of... I walked by Ludacris, and I go, MMA, and they kept saying DC, DC. And so then I kind of froze, But Ludacris's guy told me, oh, he's with his wife. He's not really doing anything. And but Lorenz was cool. He was kind of trailing behind. So that was one time. But I'm telling you, this wasn't a person, but it was just Grand Central Station. It was that scene. I've seen the movie so many times. Like, holy shit, that's where they filmed it. It was really cool. Now, that was like 1983 the movie came out. They've changed a few things. There's an Apple store up there, which takes the whole gang element out of it, But it's a little bit of a softer terminal, I guess, than before when these shootings may or may not have been going down.
I want to do the one from Untouchables. I want to take a picture of Stone behind a...
Oh yeah,
like on the stairs
with a carriage case, a baby carriage case.
That's a classic scene. I can't remember. They played it in film school. That I don't know, not Millier Brothers, but there's actually a classic scene of the baby carriage going down the steps, and that was an homage to it. Now it became a classic scene for Untouchables, though.
Yeah.
Well, when we went to Chicago, the same trip that had the whole Chicago dog, we got to get one, blah blah blah. On one of those. When the taxi guy picked me up, he goes, where are we going? I go, 1634 Racine.
Nice.
And he kind of stopped for a second. Like, I've heard that before. But then he was like, okay. He started to think and get the car going. And then I go, hey, relax. This joker wants to take us to some known chili dog place. That was just a quote from the Untouchables. But I come to find out 1634 Racine is still there. And
wow. It looks the same, or is it just?
I haven't seen it, but I was told it's still there, and I think it's one of those where if you go by, it'd be like the way I described Charlie's house in
Top Gun.
Top Gun, kind of like it's there, but it's nothing close to.
You know how we always talk about Forrest Whitaker and how he just pulled the panic button so quickly in phone booth.
Yeah, I need that number. I've been waiting for that number.
Frank Nitti is kind of similar in the way where he says, "Nice house." I said, "Nice house." Like you didn't even give the guy a chance to say, like, "Yeah, I heard you," or "Thank you." You just doubled up. It was weird.
Doubled up and collect. Well, that's a different 1634 scene, though. You know that, right?
No, I'm just talking about
Sean Connery lived at 1634. Yeah. All right, so I guess let's get out of pop culture for a second there. Although
pop culture,
that was grand pop culture.
Yes.
Yeah, that was grand.
Don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
It was grand pop culture. It wasn't the current stuff. But currently, did you see James Franco's the latest to be getting them accusations?
I saw some on Twitter, but I didn't read into it.
He went on Colbert though early on, and he was kind of addressing them, which I think is what you should do. But are you about to point out Michael Douglas?
No, actually, Chris, you broke it to me, so you can you want to do it on
Chris, who's being a sexual deviant, an alleged sexual deviant?
Yeah. Allegedly, it breaks my heart to say this, but Marvel creator Stan Lee.
Oh man. Not Stan the Man.
Allegedly asking for oral pleasures from the nurses that are helping take care of him in his Hollywood home.
Well,
how old is this guy?
95.
95 years old.
I mean, come on. That one's a tough one to...
It's from a different era.
Yeah.
I don't think you can crucify him. Huh? I don't think you can really crucify him.
I mean, if he's doing it, then
but you get to some age where you start really saying and
I think there's an easy out for that.
I'm old. What do you want from me?
Something similar to that.
What is it?
I don't know. I mean, if it were that bad and it's going to affect a lot of things, I would just say, hey, man, I think I'm coming down with Alzheimer's or something, right? Like,
perhaps, yeah.
I was going to question that at 95.
I just remember the good old Stanley from Mallrats, you know, when Brody's asking him all the questions about the characters, and it's like, sorry.
I know everybody wants to tread on that one, you know. I'm sorry, but
I didn't know about
there's a lot of
Douglas.
females that are reacting by listening, going, he's fucking old. I'm telling you, that are even on. You have to be a hardcore feminist to go crucify him, you know, take everything away or whatever, because I didn't know too much about this character, this gentleman. But 95, you know. Michael Douglas, though, I heard had something, and he tackled it head on as well, and said, hey, something's about to get out. I deny it vehemently. And that's that. Franco was on Colbert because he wore that pin for, what's it called? The Time's Up?
Something like that, yeah. I saw
Me
that.
Too.
Yeah.
And I guess Ali Sheedy and a few other actors are, actors now. They're both actresses, can be actors. They were saying, hey, what about the time? And they described something to what Chris just said, grabbing some chick's head and pulling a Joe Pesci in Casino. Just get down here and do your thing. And, you know, he says, hey, look, I've already addressed the thing with the 17-year-old. It was social media, said he didn't know what the deal was, apologized, and then the other stuff, he says Ali Sheedy took the tweets down. So, you know, how serious could that have been? And then whatever other third one there was, who knows? But he got out ahead of it, too.
It's a crazy climate we're in, boys. It's a crazy climate we're in. If I was famous, I would just get ahead of it and create a false accusation about me that I could disprove. That way it's like boy who cried wolf, God forbid something comes up. Just kidding. But, you know when, you can't even joke about that anymore, though.
When the Notre Dame football players walk out and they hit that sign, play like a champion, I'm going to make one from my doorway that just says, don't be dumb. And every day when I walk out, I'm just going to hit it. Don't be dumb.
Don't be dumb.
Because really, if you don't be dumb, you're okay.
Right.
Life is not that difficult.
I agree. Speaking of that, Liverpool. They have a player.
Speaking of dumb.
Dumb, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dumb fans, dumb club, everything.
Dumb.
No, but check this out. There's a player named Ox Chamberlain. Yeah. He apparently hit a sign. I read it quickly. He hit one of those signs. And Jurgen Klopp, the manager, said, don't hit the sign until we win something. So no one's hit the sign. But apparently he wasn't there when Jurgen put the rule in. But I believe he was aware. But anyway, he hit a sign, and now they feel like there's some sort of a jinx.
Like a curse?
Now, yeah, now this is like, you know when you go in there and like it says like the Sun, the Mirror, the Enquirer. It looks like one of those where it could be cheesy and half of it's true.
Oh, if it is, we're going to have a text.
I'm sure we will.
Now,
but the fact that, you know, like you have enough time during the day to really investigate shit that you care about, or you can just come out here and have a laugh or whatever, but that's what I'm having. But I'll be keeping an eye on that. I'll be wondering if that is, in fact, in any way true. You know, once I have a chance on the weekend to catch up and just read up on it, and then keeping an eye to see if he just jinxed his team. Or if maybe it's a stretch. You know, we find out that the CEO of that paper is a Man U fan or who knows what. But all right, on the show today, not only do we have Millender, the headliner for LFA 30, Access TV, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday. We have Jordan Rinaldi, fights for the UFC. He's got a fight coming up as well later January. UFC on Fox 27, I think they're at. He'll be followed by Ron Kruck, play-by-play announcer for Access TV. And then we'll finish up with Aaron Pico, Bellator 192. So we're kind of spread out there with all the events.
Yeah.
4 guests, all confirmed, all via the phone. Have one more kind of on ice, but I haven't heard, and we're literally at the point where if it was going to happen, I would have wanted to hear back from the promotion. And we haven't, so I think we're safe. We're all right for now. Again, 866-522-2847. Excuse me, 866-522-2846 is the number to call in. And then, are you guys hearing about possibly Khabib and Tony?
No, but I gotta imagine that that's their target, right?
Right. So I was on the Underground, mixedmartialarts.com, and somebody posted it. Of course, I clicked it. It's all in Russian. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell it may have been. But a few people started chiming in, and maybe April 7th, I guess it would be UFC 223. And this is in no way confirmed. This is in no way like factual just yet. I was just trying to do my own digging, but then I heard on the way here from someone else, a site that gets slammed a lot, it's MMA Imports, that they started digging as well, and now a few pieces are coming together. So in those 20 minutes it took to get here, I was wondering if you guys had heard anything.
No, I haven't heard
anything. And then how do you react to it? I mean, there's two ways they can go. They can either say, we're stripping Conor and this is it, or Conor's not fighting yet and this is for the interim title. How do you react to both?
Well, if it's for the interim, it's just so weird because why did we bother even before? I think if they make this fight, then it's saying, and we don't hear that Conor McGregor is being stripped, then it means that Conor's fighting sometime, early spring or late spring, right?
Well, if this is April 7th, he would be fighting the winner, wouldn't he?
No. Conor?
Yeah.
They specifically said, though, that they would strip him if he hadn't fought by, like, July or something like that, or one of those. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that to me tells me right away he's probably done for.
Okay. You?
I think I don't think it matters how they word it, because I think we can all read between the lines on who's going to get who and who will get who when depending on when Conor comes back. But I will say it'll be interesting to see if, like you said, they title this an interim title still. That's what I guess I'll be looking for as far as the language, because
how do you stomach it?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, that's obviously tough to defend, right? We don't have to get into the semantics of that. A lot of us already credit Tony Ferguson with the lightweight title, but neither here nor there. We can argue about that. It's going to be depending on how they package it, right? So if they say interim title, that might raise some flags, but it really doesn't matter what they say. We pretty much guess if Conor wants a crack back at lightweight, he's fighting one of these two guys. So
I started thinking about something. If, in fact, this is for the interim title and Conor's just not ready to go, of course, a lot of people are going to be going, then he should be stripped. He's not injured. You can't just sit there and not defend. It's not fair to everybody else. However, the simple retort to that is, but this is Conor. And you know what, man? It's unfortunate, but it's true. Conor's just this huge needle mover, and sometimes you got to play up to the superstar. It's not like it doesn't happen to Tom Brady,
but we just did it,
or Kobe Bryant, or Michael Jordan, or if Cristiano Ronaldo just wanted to get away, he could probably ask Real Madrid, can I use the private chopper or the private plane? And I'm
but
not
he's
sure
going to show up to the next game.
I'm not sure
That's
everyone
the
else
difference,
could.
though.
Yeah,
and
true.
he's going to play his ass off, right?
True.
I feel like the UFC bent over.
But Barbara Streisand, supposedly when she would do her concerts and she was warming up, nobody could look at her. Things like that. That's what the superstars, I guess, get.
I know Mariah Carey only gets red Skittles, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So imagine it's just power.
Right,
They like to flex the power, and so I could see them going, fuck, we got to give in to him again. He is Conor. I don't see them, if this is for the interim and Conor's healthy and he just doesn't feel like fighting, he's going to fight the winner. I don't see him getting one chance past that. Because once we get over the fact that, boy, that damn Conor got away with another one, we get Tony and Khabib. You know what I mean? So we get really excited about that. And the hardcores are almost past. They're almost past Conor McGregor being the best lightweight. They're like, oh, fuck, this is it.
Yep.
This is the fight for the best. And then it's just a formality for the winner to get Conor. Of course, anything can happen, but I think a lot of people are zeroing in on that. Now, does Conor care? No, he doesn't lose sleep that the hardcore or media and fans think that. But I just think that I have this feeling that that's what's kind of be it. Now, it doesn't mean Conor's going to boxing. It also doesn't mean Conor and Nate is next, or Conor and Woodley, or Conor and GSP, or anything. It just doesn't seem like he's ready to fight either guy.
At what point, if that were to happen, do you pull Adi Attar aside and go, dude, you're brilliant. Like, you really look out for your client, all these things that you've been able to pull. Who would have thought he could box, right? I'm sure their legal team went to work, figured out a way that they could all make it happen. Just certain matchups that Conor's been able to avoid. Like, when does that guy ever get credit?
Well, he should. I mean, he also has thought outside the box and has other athletes in the NFL, including my man out there in Cincinnati, the linebacker, the guy's always kind of getting in some trouble. What's his name?
I forget his name.
You know his name?
I know you're talking about that.
No.
Perfect. Yeah. Fontez Perfect, I think, or something like that. The linebacker. He went to Centennial in Corona. But, yeah, you're right. A few of these managers, you have to give them their credit. A lot of them went away when Reebok came. They had a manager and agent summit when they wanted to get together and said, how are we fighting back? How do we adapt? I heard the first that spoke out had an unrealistic approach, and others have just kind of gone with it, and they're finding other ways to make their clients money. Of course, the money's better now, so maybe you don't need 20% of everything. Maybe you're fine with 10%. I mean, 20% of 500 grand is 100 grand. And obviously, a fighter may say, "Really, I don't need your 100. I don't need you to pay you 100 grand to give me that contract. I can get it just all right. Well, cool. Maybe toss 5,000 my way.
Well, what we heard
which would be 25,000. You know,
perhaps they would go away, and really, what you would use is just a lawyer to go
yeah.
through paperwork, right?
Right. So I don't know what's gonna happen, man. Nate Diaz also put out another post on Instagram.
I'm not gonna do it.
What did he say?
I'm not gonna do
back to work or something like that. Back at it, and it's just the timing of it all, you know. So sure enough, if this other thing's happening, who knows? Maybe Nate and Connor gets done. But again, where I would really be pissed, I could stomach Khabib versus Tony for the interim. I would not be happy about it, but I could stomach it because it'd be a great fight. And again, Connor's juice, it means something. I could stomach, while they do that, Connor versus Nate 3 just to get it out of the way, especially because the other guys are already doing the interim. What I could not stomach is if Nate versus Connor was not for the title. I think it has to be at 155 pounds, and it has to be for the title. And then that way it puts Nate in that spot to be a champion, which I don't think he deserves the shot, but he also has juice. I know it's a big seller. I just don't want to see it at 170. And here's why. Because if it's at 170 and they have some sort of a draw, it's still 1-1-1, and they could figure out a fourth one. It would fuck everybody up sometime in 2020. And I feel like 1-1-1 with the title, since the champion leaves with the title, I feel like he'd be like, I'm still the champ, I'm Ghost. Kind of like with Woodley and Thompson. He's not 0-2 against the champ. It's just he failed to get the belt in both attempts because the draw, the belt stays with the champ. That's kind of what that would add to it, is a little bit of finality to that whole thing. I kept my belt. I fought you and I kept my belt. You had a chance to take it. You didn't take it. I move on to Khabib and Tony.
But then does he have to fight the legions of fans that are probably losing their mind? Because even if we do get Khabib and Tony and it does go through and it's a great fight, and obviously it would happen before anything Connor gets booked, like this hypothetical, but do you think people would just lose their mind from the feeling like it's Bisping wanting to defend against Hendo for his belt again, and kind of a thing like that? We waited this long, fight Khabib or Tony.
Oh yeah, people are gonna lose their shit for sure.
For how long though? Because at the end of the day, they're all fights we want to see.
They're all fights we want to see.
It's just we don't like the way that they got to that point.
Funny
right?
You should bring that up. Hendo and Bisping. Now I'm not one of those guys that goes out there and retweets what I heard or whatever. This one was a little bit different. Okay, after the whole thing with Masvidal and Bisping, and I think Tavares wants Bisping too. Did you guys hear that?
No.
Yeah, I saw that.
He respectfully said, "I'd love to compete with you in your final fight in London." Well, the point is, I haven't heard that Bisping has anyone. I started thinking, what about Hendo? I've always had a pretty decent relationship with him, where I can reach out to him and get book him or whatever. So I wrote him, and since a lot of my conversations, really, I'm an off-the-record guy, unless we say now it's on the record, whereas I think when our writers call, I think it's more of a formality. Hey, look, when we're talking, this is. So I told him, are you enjoying retirement, Hendo? You know what's funny? I see all these dudes calling out Bisping for his final fight in March in London. And then I told him, would you be, like, are you getting the itch? Are you enjoying retirement? Would you want to maybe get in there now that he's no longer the champ? And I don't think people would have a problem with Hendo jumping to the front of the queue, right? He's not taking anyone's title shot. Right. And then they could break that trilogy,
like
and they both make some bank on the way out. Yeah, so I thought, wow, I may have something here, right?
But you got to do it in England.
I know that, and that's actually part of his answer. And he said it was okay to share this. He says, "Don't have the itch. Already got screwed once in England." So, now what I don't know is if he just doesn't have the itch to fight, or if he doesn't have the itch to fight Bisping, or if he doesn't have the itch to fight Bisping in England. So, I don't know. I don't know who will be next for Bisping. I think Masvidal. That fight's got some heat. But I'm a Brad Tavares supporter, in a sense. He's a frequent co-host, and I think that'd be a tremendous fight for him, too. It doesn't get him near to a title shot, but I think it's just one of those fights where there's certain guys that have a legendary status in the sport, like Bisping, where you figure, well, that'd just be a great fight, kind of like what's happening with Hall and Vitor this weekend.
If he doesn't have the itch, though, Hendo, then, he kind of pokes at Bisping pretty often.
Does he?
Yeah, like on Twitter.
Oh.
I
don't see that.
I don't know. It seems kind of weird.
Yeah. I guess the England thing just gave him a sour taste. We need to take a break. All right. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. Let's take this break. Let's pay some bills, and then when we come back, we'll start talking to some of our guests and take some calls, continue going over the news, doing what we do here on the show. So stay close. We'll be right back after these messages.
If it happens inside or outside
You know that scene in Star Wars where Darth Vader tells Luke he's his father? What if I walked in right after with my voice and was like, I'm your Uncle Walter. Can I get a lift home? That'd be crazy, right? Anyway, here are George and Goes.
All right, I'm going to go over some news here, and then Dan and Goes can choose what they would like to talk about. We'll start off with the odds for UFC 222. Max Holloway is favored over Frankie Edgar. Joey Odessa, noted odds maker, put out a line that has Max Holloway favored, and it kind of caught me surprised. It was surprising to me. So we call it the Odessa line. He's got Max Holloway at minus 300. The comeback on Frankie Edgar is plus 235. That's more than I expected. I mean, I feel like this fight's not a coin flip, but what I mean by that is go into Extreme Couture, and there'll be 30 fighters there, and then there'll be 10 other like employees or family and friends, just hardcore, right? And I think we'll have a total of 50 people that you could say you're not leaving the gym without answering this question. And I believe 25 would tell you Holloway, and 25 would tell you Edgar. I'm not sensing that Holloway's this runaway favorite. Holloway's looked great in his last few fights. I get that, but wow, minus 300. That's a big number on Holloway. So I think they both have popularity. They both have sizable resumes. It's not like you can go, oh, you know the Irish, when they come to town, they always bet. You can't say that. Right. You can't say, oh, he's a heartthrob. The women are they're gonna pour in their money. You know, nothing like that. There's just two dudes, very well respected. Big names in the sport. They have their skill set, and I don't know. Do you agree with that? Minus 300 for for Max Holloway, plus 225 for Frankie Edgar.
It's hard to say whether I agree with it, because obviously Joey and these odds makers are the expert in that. They can explain it a whole lot better. Mm-hmm. For me, it's more just speculation, because I do work obviously in a similar field. So when I see numbers like this, George, it's not that I agree with it, because I think that Frankie Edgar is a way liver dog than people are giving credit for. I think me and Goes were both kind of stating that case yesterday, was it? But the point is about the line, though. I think, and again, I don't want to speak for Joey or odds makers, when they put a guy like Holloway minus 300, that tells me, okay, we want to encourage the public betting here. We don't want to necessarily have a line that's indicative of the skill level or chance level. We want an encouraging, and I see it as we want to encourage him to bet Frankie Edgar, remind him that he's the dog, rather than encouraging him to bet the favorite. And because I think Max Holloway should be a justified favorite, not minus 300. But I think the reason why they put the wall that high is because you get a bunch of the sharps in. If you were to put it at maybe a minus 120 or minus 150, which is probably more appropriate, right? If we were lining that, I think a lot of people would get in on that, and you'd have a lot of your early tickets, and I think that would immediately put the house, needing Frankie. You know what I'm saying? Whereas minus 300, Max bettors might go, you know what? I believe Max was going to win this fight when they announced it, but minus 300, let's wait to see what the line does. I don't know if I'm going to mess with that. If anything, I'll wait till it gets closer, throw it in a parlay piece, and now all of a sudden you start seeing more dog money coming on a Frankie subsequently. So I got to imagine it's one of those tactics, George, because if you're talking about the way you're talking about it, I agree.
They call it the anticipated take, the anticipated handle. I know Hawaiians, and here I am stereotyping, are known to love to gamble.
Yeah.
But who isn't? Someone from Jersey. Everyone's got a guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? The East Coasters love to throw down too. And again, both guys come with huge resumes where you go, has he ever fought a tall, lanky guy? Has he ever fought a wrestler? Has he ever fought? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That one was a bit bizarre to me. But what do you think of that line?
I was a little bit surprised. I thought maybe somewhere around 2 to 250, but I don't know that 50-50. Like if you were to walk into Extreme Couture,
really,
I think a lot of people can make arguments for why Frankie Edgar could win and why it could be a difficult matchup. But I think what swayed me was when you put that gun to my head, I think a lot of people will side with Max.
Yeah.
I think it'd be more like 75-25, maybe something like that. But there are plenty of ways for Frankie to win, and I may end up picking him that night.
You do the Junkie Radio. You have the Junkie Radio thing, right? The Twitter handle.
Yeah.
You know how to create a poll?
Yeah.
Can you create one and just make it basic,
Yeah, let's do that.
Who are you more likely to bet? Max Holloway minus 300 or Frankie Edgar plus 225. Let's see what Junkie Nation says about that. So here it is. Diaz said back in action. You know, he's got some boxing gloves on, and who knows if that ties into the other stuff we're hearing. Volkan Ozdemir pleads not guilty. He's free to fight at UFC 220. So I think any last obstacle, we had heard this was on, so this might have just been a formality. ATT coach, who's that? That's Conan Silveira, who's kind of now the main guy along with Mike Brown, and he was saying, hey, everything's good, man. Covington's, the Brazilians get it. We kind of get what he's saying. Yeah, I think there's a quote attributed to Antonio Silva and Amanda Nunes, but for the most part, it seems like everybody's all right with Mr. Covington and his antics. And then how about this? You know, sometimes we read it and then we go, oh, boy, that's too bad, and move on. UFC, Amanda Ribas accepts 2-year suspension for anti-doping violation. I believe that's the young lady that Alex Davis talked about, right? All right. How would you feel? It's not apples to apples, but if you were just to hear, you can't do Junkie Radio for 2 years.
How would I feel?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I wonder what she's feeling. Like, she says accepts this, but I wonder what she's feeling. Like, the ability to make money is taken away for 2 years if I want to remain with the UFC. I wonder just, like, how does an athlete tackle that one? That's got to be – do you even – is that where you maybe go back and finish your master's?
I was going to say, everybody's in a different situation.
Yeah.
But that's 2 years is so much longer than people
that one
expect
hurts.
That it could be something where somebody even goes, do I even want to do this anymore? What am I going to do for 2 years to kill this time? Is it worth my time?
Like when JDS got his, he'd be like, well, I got money in the bank. I can do seminars. I am JDS for crying out loud. But she has yet to even get started.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That one's got to sting. All right, we're ready to go with our first guest?
We're ready to go.
All right, our first guest is Curtis Millender. He's been on the show before. SoCal guy, just like us. He'll be headlining the OC Fair and Event Center. I've been calling it the Hangar. That's the nickname, but technically it is the OC Fair and Event Center. So that's home to the Orange County Fair, which is massive in the summer. And it's out in Costa Mesa, California. Access TV has been out there before. I've been there, and it's a great crowd. I've been there actually for what used to be RFA, and I was actually there for Invicta as well. So great spot to take in the fights.
I was also there for half a card.
That's right. Goes got escorted out. You can tell that story later. Curtis Millender is fighting Nick Barnes on Friday night. Remember, they made an adjustment, and where no longer do we have the show, the very popular show that used to be on HDNet, and now Access TV, Inside MMA. And so they start at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific, and they've been kicking ass as LFA. We're now at LFA 30, and we're joined by Curtis Millender. What's up, Curtis? How you doing?
I am great, sir. How you doing?
Great, man. I mean, you got to be ecstatic. This is just a freeway ride to go to work. You know, there's no getting on planes or none of that stuff.
None of that. This is actually home sweet home. This will actually be my 9th fight at the fairground. So I started my career there with Fight Club OC. So I'm glad and happy to be back.
How many people are going to be rolling deep with you to down that 91 to the 55 to the OC Fair and Event Center?
It'll be hundreds. I know I personally sold a little over 150 seats. So it's gonna be a couple hundred out there screaming. I got a couple of teammates that from other gyms that are bringing their fans around too. So I'm sure they're gonna stick around and scream for me.
Man, that's awesome. I've been there before, and we're from Santa Ana, California, so we love anytime the fight promotions go out to Southern California. You know, this one more specifically is Orange County, which is even better. But Southern California, I really make my best effort to get down there. Bellator's the following week in Inglewood. So great start for 2018 mixed martial arts. And of course, you're coming off last time we talked to you, you had a nice KO there at Legacy Fighting Alliance 24. So you're just carrying that momentum over.
Yes, I am. You know, just looking to put another big finish on my record, and get this UFC contract. It's overdue now.
Yeah,
so I definitely should be there.
And when we talked last time, you really weren't feeling the pressure or putting the pressure on yourself. You've kind of just taken things in stride. Now you've kind of just given me an early answer there to what I was going to ask you. But now it seems like you're starting to really warm up to the idea that the next step is where you need to be, and this is the perfect platform to do it, LFA 30.
Yes, it is. You know, I really feel after beating Nick Barnes, there's nobody, you know, on the smaller circuit really to beat. It's time for me to be showing my talents off worldwide and be in the UFC and fighting the best guys in the world.
Curtis Millender, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He's headlining LFA 30 this Friday in Orange County, California, Costa Mesa to be more exact. Now, if you can't get there in person, and I highly recommend it because there's not a bad ticket at the hangar, which is what it's known as. Watch the fights on Access TV, which is channel 340 on DirecTV. Otherwise, check your local satellite and cable listings, and those fights go off at 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. What do you have for Curtis Millender?
Curtis, in this 5-fight winning streak, is there a particular fight that you could point to where you feel like maybe your game took that next step, where you made a jump in your career?
Well, I would say all my last 5 fights have definitely, each fight have gotten closer and closer. But I would say the fight that probably where I knew I was going to be at the next level was the Kevin Holland fight, because that was the first fight I've ever had to come back from adversity. And I showed that I was tough. You know, I hate being labeled as being tough because I feel like it's just you getting beat up and you coming back. But now that I know I can, not necessarily that I was getting beat up, but I got dropped and I had to come back and, you know, fight through some things. And, you know, and I definitely did that. So now I know. And then that KO of Franco was just everything. He really just played right into what I wanted to do. I set a trap and he fell for it, and it was just perfect. So now I know I can compete with these guys, no problem.
Curtis, you mentioned what could be waiting for you with a victory here. Does that make you have to fight any different? Is a win good enough here, or being so close to what you want, or do you need a finish or even a spectacular finish?
I don't think it necessarily needs to be a spectacular finish, but a finish would definitely help. It's going to be spectacular because that's what I plan to do, but I definitely don't go out there just to win. I go out there to dominate my fights. I prepare for war, but I'm expecting a shutout. You know.
Curtis Millender, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. Sorry, Curtis, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Were you going to finish your answer?
Oh, no, that was good.
Okay. All right. And Curtis is headlining LFA 30 on Friday. Access TV, channel 340. I'm telling you because we have DirecTV. What do you have, Dan, by the way?
DirecTV? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So channel 340. But, you know, they have now expanded, by the way. Access TV is like in another 10 million homes, 20 million homes. Andrew Simon had told me that. Mm-hmm. So you got to check your local listings. But it's a great channel for mixed martial arts. They come strong every single weekend. And the first show of the year is LFA 30. Calling the action will be Ron Kruck, who will also be on the show later on, along with Pat Miletich. And the third person they have is Phoenix Carnivale. All right, what do you have, Dan, for Curtis Millender?
Well, last time we spoke to Curtis, I was really impressed with Curtis, how he came off in the interview. Was even more impressed when I watched your footage. And, of course, you go out, you deliver at LFA 24, you knock out. Very nice head kick, by the way, against Matthew Franco. So, there's not much more as far as, like, you know, I'm not going to be surprised to be, you know, impressed out there. But can you tell me, Curtis, who's helping you, you know, get to this level? Are you working with any new coaches this time around, or is this the same crew that's kind of helped you up the regional ranks?
Yes, same crew. I've added Ben Jones and Eric Paulson over from CSW right around the towards the end of my Bellator stint about 3 years ago, and they just helped me turn that tide to going out there and finishing and to hurt, and not just win fights, not just trying to outpoint people, but just be dominant, be victorious every time. And I train with I cross train with a few guys. I sit down and I have talks with like Raymond Daniels and about some striking techniques and things like that. Uchenna Anyakamu is my Muay Thai coach. He just teaches everything right. So if we see something we can learn or we can do, he shows me the correct way to do it, and he makes sure I'm watching film and things like that.
Those are some names there, huh?
Yeah, definitely. That benefits of that California scene, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the guy we're talking about with these highlights may have been the third polished striker there in that conversation. And no offense, but those guys are just big names. Yeah. But Curtis is on his way, you know what I mean? But Curtis, I wanted to ask you, you're Courteous Curtis, and we know Lorenz Larkin very well, and he couldn't be a nicer guy. Like, what is it about your set? You guys are just like some of the nicest guys out there for being so dangerous and violent on the weekends.
It's crazy. Lorenz is actually we're a pretty good friend too. I don't know. I think we just, we don't need to walk around and like tough guys. We already know we're tough guys, So, and I was just raised. That's just the way I was raised. I was always raised to treat everybody like a 10. Don't show that you're sad. Don't show that you're mad. Be happy. It's enough to, I don't want to walk around and be all gloomy, and then that's infectious.
Right.
I want smiles and good vibes.
All right, my man. Well, listen, it's great catching up with you. I'm actually driving in from Vegas for the show, so I'll be there to watch your fight in person. I cannot wait, and we appreciate the time, man. Good luck with your last-minute preparations, your weight cut, and of course on Friday night in the fight, headlining there versus Nick Barnes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, Curtis.
All right, you too.
All right, folks. We're going to go to break. And let me let you know that big hand to the show would be if you were to tweet Curtis Millender. He is Courteous Curtis, CurtiOus CurTis. Let him know you heard him at MMA Junkie Radio Show, and that definitely would help us out. All right, folks. We'll be right back after these messages.
Two trailer park girls go round the outside, round the outside, round the outside. Two trailer park girls go round the outside, round the outside, round the outside.
The They can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
SiriusXM Radio is giving our subscribers a chance to win an opportunity to go to Minneapolis, Minnesota for Super Bowl 52. One grand prize winner will win a trip for two, including airfare, 3-night stay hotel, 2 tickets to Super Bowl 52 on February 4th. If you're a football fan, this is the ultimate prize. No additional purchase is necessary. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/Super Bowl. Do that before January 24th, 2018. The NFL entities as defined in the official rules have not offered or sponsored this sweepstakes in any way. All right, so early numbers have poured in here. Oops. And Dan Tom did a poll on the @MMA Junkie Radio Twitter handle. And so far, kindly, 46 of you have responded. There's still an hour and 2 minutes left, so it's timed. Dan was telling me. I didn't know that's how you how one does it, but I've never really done this.
Yeah.
Okay. So far, these are the results. Boy, was I wrong. I said if we went to Extreme Couture, no one could leave without answering the question. I thought it'd be 50-50. Well, you may have messed it up a little bit. You wrote, who do you have winning the event?
Oh.
And
Okay.
I could see. Well, so these are the results.
Okay.
Holloway gets 85% of the votes. Edgar gets 15% of the votes. But what I meant was, who would you bet on? But this tells me that I think the numbers will still be overwhelmingly Holloway. It's just I don't know if you have to. It's a big difference from going, I'll bet you Holloway and Edgar.
Yeah.
Losers a Dodo, Chipotle, Texas de Brazil, whatever people bet.
It's true. Betting
Or
different.
going, fuck, I got to get 300 out to win my 100 on Holloway. Versus the other way might be 100 to win my 235, and of course use the scale of what you're accustomed to bet on. That one's a little bit different. You start to go, fuck, I get Edgar, an all-time great. He handled guys with that kind of frame before, and I only lose my 10 to make 2350, or my 100 to make 235, or my 1,000 to make 2,350. Versus having to put up 30 to win 10, and you know what I mean. So I don't know. We'll let that one simmer for now, and then we'll rewrite it maybe on tomorrow's show and see how that one comes across. I had something else here. The fuck was it? Shit. Howie D. Howie D from Austria was listening. Big Liverpool fan. And he says basically everything I said was correct about that touching of the sign. And he seems to think that just Ox wasn't thinking when he did it. So I wrote him back and I said, this is what I feel. If they don't win silverware this year, because they've been scoring, man.
It's the curse.
They've been playing ball. If they don't win, and I think they still have a chance to win 3 of the 4 big trophies, then I feel like he cursed them. And if not, then I'll bet we all stand back and say, hey, congrats for winning
1 minute.
Whatever it is that you did win, and nothing to be said about January 10th show. We were wrong. So we'll see. We'll see if he accepts that. It's not really a bet. I think it's just something we'll stand on. But imagine if 2-3 years go by, they're going to be asking for that guy to just get moved at some point, right? You got to get that cancer off. And I don't think he's been some sort of a savior. I mean, they've actually had some.
I think it depends
that
on
Van
the way
Dyke guy
you
scored
lose
for
to,
them the other way. The Salah guy was a great signing. They just sold Coutinho for a bunch of money, so they got other people on the way. I'm telling you, man, that can be really, really freaky. All right, folks, we are up here. It's the end of the first hour. When we come back, we'll be talking to Jordan Rinaldi from the UFC. He's got a fight coming up later on this month, and Ron Kruck will follow him. He is the play-by-play announcer for Access TV. So stay close, give us a few minutes, and we'll be right back. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM, Rush 93.
you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
All right, let me clear up something here in this second hour. UFC on Fox 27, Jacare versus Brunson is in Charlotte, North Carolina. I may have misspoken and said Orlando earlier. Orlando's the next show that's coming around the corner, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With Mike Perry. He got thrown on that card, and that one's got Romero and Branch.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Now this one's got middleweights at the top. Jacare versus Brunson. This is the one that follows the Boston card, the Boston pay-per-view. Queen Latifah fights OSP. Bermudez fights Andre Fili. And then our man here, Jordan Rinaldi, he's going to be mixing it up with Gregor Gillespie. Jordan Rinaldi's 13-5 overall, 1-1 in the UFC, and he's coming off a submission win this past August over Alvaro Herrera. Jordan can be followed on Twitter at Jordan Rinaldi, just like his name. He joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Jordan? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are y'all?
Doing great. I just got to know something, though. On your Twitter page, what is that excitement that I see on you and the young lady that's sitting next to you? What is that because of?
On my Twitter page?
Yeah.
I got to pull it up.
You're both in a car, and you're both looking to the left. It looks like you're the driver, unless you guys are in the UK and she's the driver. But you kind of have a half smile, like you may have sat on a tack.
Well, take a guess. What do you think it is?
Yeah, y'all guess real quick.
Let's guess.
I'm going to say that he just found out that they're opening a Chick-fil-A right around the corner from where he lives.
We have those all over the place in North Carolina. Don't worry about that.
Okay, I'm going to say that she planted a tack, and he sat on it, and he's making a face like, oh, that hurts. And she's going, ha ha, I got you.
Like, she's been excited this whole, yeah.
Right,
so she kept saying things like, we're out of milk. And he was like, we'll get it later. And then finally he bit on one of them.
Exactly. Okay. So practical joke took place. You want to take a guess, Dan, what you see here?
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier, actually. I don't know. I wouldn't go for tack because it doesn't look painful. It looked like they just won tickets to something, if I were guessing. Like they just won something.
Okay.
All right. So are any of our guesses close? Do you remember this?
Not close. We're on our honeymoon there, and we were actually in the Bahamas, so they drive on the right-hand side. So I was driving there, and we were just scared because I was driving on the right-hand side of the car, and she was driving on the right-hand side of the car, and I was just super nervous.
Okay.
So you guys didn't find out that you've been using the same toothbrush for the last 2 years?
Yeah, we didn't need to tell everybody, but I mean,
okay. You let the cat out of the bag, Goes. All right. So, how recent was this, Jordan? This is life-changing here.
This was 2 years ago, so March 2016, or a year and a half ago.
Did you say March because you can't remember the actual date? Am I about to get you busted here?
It's March 18th of 2016.
Oh, okay.
I know the date. My dad actually quizzed me on this to make sure I was being a good husband the other day.
Yeah, I was setting you up there. And then, it's fun because I like that's one of the first things I do is, okay, when's he fighting, who's he fighting, this, that, whatever. But I figure you're going to get so many of those questions. Let's have a little bit of fun. Looked like you were really, really glued to UGA versus Alabama the other night.
Well, I watched it as long as I could stay up, man. All these games starting in prime time at 8:30, that's late. And the games go on to 12 o'clock with all the breaks they have and everything. So I stayed up for the most part, and I really, really just hate Alabama. So I was going for Georgia as much as possible, and I split time in Atlanta as well, so a lot of the people there are UGA fans. So I was enjoying the first half, and then the second half, it was about my bedtime, and it was the right time since they started falling apart.
Okay. Well, it was a great game. And I don't know, I know obviously with you having some time in Vegas, I don't know if you're a gambler at all or just a football fan or just a casual that took in the game.
Actually, I'm really casual with college football. I'm a huge Panthers fan. I mean, there's not a Panthers game I missed. When I was living in Vegas, I was getting up at 9:30 to go to I think Buffalo Wild Wings or something so I could watch the Panthers games because we didn't have cable or anything at the apartment. So Panthers are what I'm really about, and then college football, I just wanted to see Alabama lose, so that's why I was watching it then.
Bro, that game was there for the taking. I mean, I know it stings, but like even despite that you guys settled for a lot of field goals, was that drop pass, the first missed field goal, and even then at the end, in the end, it was right there.
It was a very depressing Sunday for me.
Yeah. Who do you think is going to take down the whole Super Bowl if you had to guess? Do you root for the team that eliminated you, or are you rooting for anyone else, or could you care less?
I can't root for anyone in the NFC South because I hate New Orleans and Atlanta.
Yeah.
But then you've got to put the Eagles without Wentz. You can't really imagine them winning with Foles at quarterback. I mean, they can win 1 or 2 games, maybe make it to the Super Bowl, but I don't see them beating the Brady or Roethlisberger in the Super Bowl. But honestly, I think one of the NFC teams is going to win. I mean, the NFC was just way too strong this year. The AFC there was holes all over it. I thought it was really weak. So even though it's Tom Brady and Roethlisberger, they're big names, I don't think either one of them really have a chance against any NFC team.
Have you ever had a chance to meet the Panthers in any way, officially?
No. I'm hoping to one day. I get a little better or win a few more fights. Maybe they'll be like, hey, they have this drum that they beat every game. It's called the Keep Pounding drum, and I'm hoping one day they're like, hey, we want you to come and do it, because they have people in the community come and do it, like Steph Curry and other people in the community of Charlotte. So. Hopefully one day I'll get to go and do that and meet all these giants one day.
And I could have sworn I seen Brunson tweeting about them, So maybe if there's a few North Carolina fighters that this can be set up through the UFC. I'm telling you, I've seen other fighters do it, and the athletes, the pro football athletes, really, really respond to it. So
Misha did the flag in Seattle, right?
Yeah. So even if you feel like maybe you're not ready to take it on yourself, you can always co-sign along with it and go as a group. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And some of them follow me on Twitter. I've had exchanges with Shaq Thompson and a few of the other guys on the team, and it's great. But my name gets bigger and bigger as I keep on getting wins. I mean, eventually I'm hoping that they'll invite me in or something like that, because NFL players, they love fighting too. I mean, it's becoming such a big sport that everybody loves it. So
Goes was right.
I think Cam is one of the minority owners, or the small owners, whatever you call it, that has a small piece of it that they brought in. How they brought in 20 celebrity owners or whatever, like a year or two ago.
Really?
I think Cam is one of them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Goes was right. Misha Tate. She got to, what do they do, sound a horn or wave a flag?
They raise up a flag.
No, in Seattle they raised the flag, the 12th man flag.
Yeah. All right.
So it's very similar to that in Charlotte. They have a drum for it.
Jordan, what would you do if, you spent some time in Vegas, and now we're going to have the Raiders in Vegas, if they contacted you and said, hey, if they thought you still lived in Vegas and said, why don't you come over here and you get to, I don't know, whatever they have, blow the ceremonial bong or whatever the Raiders have. Would you do that before you would?
Kind of cannon. I would have to say absolutely not. How dare you? I'm a Panther.
That boy. I love this guy.
Yeah. I like that. They blow the ceremonial bong.
Well, I don't know what they do. What do they do? They got it right. They think they're gonna win the Super Bowl that year.
You stereotype the team. You might as well say like, the ceremonial jumping of the opposite fan in the parking lot. All right.
I got that one.
No, that's Philadelphia. Come on now.
Yeah, I've been there, man. The Philly fans are they're pretty mean, man. All right, Jordan Rinaldi, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be fighting at the end of the month here. We're about 17 days, if I'm not mistaken, from his fight at UFC on Fox 27, and he's mixing it up with Gregor Gillespie. All right, Dan Tom, what do you have for Jordan Rinaldi?
Hey, Jordan. So, looking at your opponent, Gregor, there's a lot of talk on him, a lot of hype on him. We see that a lot with fighters with, high wrestling credentials. Obviously, Gregor has those. But, man, you've been around for a minute, and anybody knows or looked at your resume knows that, you've seen a lot of high-level fighters in there and a lot of different looks. What is your, breakdown, if you will, of your opponent, Gregor?
Gregor is a fantastic wrestler. I think his scholastic or folk style wrestling is obviously better than his MMA wrestling, but he's slowly getting better and better at it. Each of the 3 fights in the UFC, I've noticed the improvement of kind of seamlessly putting that in with his striking and everything. His striking is very basic, but it's very good. It's crisp, it's straight, there's not many holes in it. He doesn't take too many chances, but a lot of pressure and a lot of 1-2s, 3-2s, just really basic. And he's a blue-collar kind of fighter, and I like that. I respect that, and I think that he's a tough guy on top as well. His jiu-jitsu, I don't think it's the most technical yet, but it's something that takes time. You know, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 10 years, and I don't have a black belt yet. So I think his top game is really, really good. He floats well on top. He's seamless from mount to half guard, all the positions. He's really good at floating there. And then you just really haven't seen him on the bottom because, I mean, he is such a fantastic wrestler. So overall, he's good at everything, and he does have a lot of hype for a reason.
That's an excellent breakdown of him. And let me just, add to that as far as you and your game and your training. Now, obviously, you used to train in Vegas, but, looking at your Instagram here, it looks like you're really working your way around that scene of the United States there, whether, the South Carolina upstate karate guys with Stephen Thompson and his dad, Ray. And I also see, obviously, with the, the ATT affiliate where, oh my gosh, pardon me, the other brothers fighting for the title. Lima brothers, there we go. Thank you, sir. It looks like you're getting around. Can you talk about your training and the commutes involved with that?
Yeah, so my wife got a job in Atlanta right after we got married a year and a half ago. So when she got that job there, I decided to split time between Atlanta and Charlotte as fights were coming up and everything. I would come to Charlotte for my fight camp, but when I'm in Atlanta, I'm spending a lot of time at the ATT that has the Limas, Jakal, and some other great fighters there. So that's really great. And then I've always been around the Thompsons because they're about 2 hours from Charlotte, 2 hours from Atlanta. So I literally cross them when I'm going back and forth. So I try to stop in there as much as I can. And close to fights, I don't get to go there very often, but in between fights, I go there more often. And then for this fight, I haven't been there that much because Gregor is such a wrestling base, and the Thompsons are much, much, much better at the striking aspect. So hopefully I'll get back over there after this camp and spend some more time with those guys because they're really good, and as well as the Limas and Jakal and all those guys in Atlanta.
Jordan, are the Vegas days over even for like a couple weeks? Now we got that PI out here. Have you ever thought of that?
Absolutely. I mean, Sergio Pena is my jiu-jitsu instructor. I mean, I don't plan on getting a black belt from anybody unless it's him. I don't know if he's going to end up doing that or not. I don't know how that would work. But, I mean, whenever I have an opportunity to go out there, I will. And I thought I was going to have to go do some media out there for this, so I was expecting to go out there and get to train, do some stuff at the Institute, but it didn't pan out. But absolutely, I have great friends. My old roommates, Mark Dickman and Tyler Perry, still live there. So whenever I get a chance to, I want to go out there for a week or two, and we've already talked about it with both of Tyler and Mark. So hopefully I'll be able to set that up.
It's funny you bring up Mark because before the interview started, George and I were talking about that fight. Almost seemed like it was just yesterday. It didn't seem like it was that long ago. And I know
it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and so, look, I know winning is the greatest feeling ever, but after that win, you had a little bit of a skid, a 3-fight losing streak, and that's when sometimes we'll hear fighters, they question themselves, and that was early in your career. Can you talk about that point in your life, and was there ever a moment where you thought about maybe not doing this anymore, and what was the thing that turned everything around for you?
Yeah, I mean, the skid when I was out in Vegas, I had all the right training partners. I was at two great gyms at One Kicks and Sergio's, and had great people around me, Mark and Injaquanis and other people as well. And it was just so frustrating at that point when I went on that 3-fight losing streak. The first fight, I was still in Charlotte training, but then the second two were in Vegas, and it was really, really frustrating at the time. And when I got knocked out by Muntasri, I looked at my brother in the hospital after I got my CT scan. I was like, brother, do I have what it takes? Am I going to make it here? Is this something I need to do, or is it something that I'm just limited by my athletic abilities or my chin or whatnot? And he looked at me and said, I absolutely believe in you. I think you have everything it takes to be the best in the world. And that's when I just put my head down and started working harder. I figured out a strength and conditioning program that worked better for me, and and really dug my heels in, and I actually even came up with another loss after that, and it only strengthened my resolve. The first three, kind of questioned my confidence, but then after that fourth loss that I took, it kind of just solidified, hey, I'm here for a reason. I'm not doing this half-bet anymore. I'm going 1,000% at it.
Well, we can't wait to see it. It's coming up here in a few weeks at UFC on Fox 27. Our guest, Jordan Rinaldi, will be mixing it up with Gregor Gillespie. And, again, this is Big Fox. This is the Big Fox show.
Yep.
It's going to be a great night of fights, and it's headlined by Jacare Souza versus Derek Brunson. Jordan Rinaldi can be followed, just like his name, Jordan Rinaldi, at Jordan Rinaldi on Twitter. Give him a follow. And, Jordan, thank you so much for stopping by the show. It's great to catch up with you. Hope all is well, and hopefully them Panthers get it together next season. I'm a 49ers fan, so I exited the season feeling pretty good about next year, and you guys still have Cam, for crying out loud, and a pretty tough team, so I'm sure you feel pretty good about next season as well.
Absolutely. Good luck to your Garoppolo and the 49ers.
I hope so. I hope he's the catalyst. Thank you very much, man. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Take care.
All right, see ya. All right, folks, so we're going to go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk to Ron Kruck from Access TV. Quick shout-outs to Ryan Bevins for hooking up the Curtis Millender interview, and Lou DeBono for hooking up the Jordan Rinaldi interview. We'll be back after these messages. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM, Rush 93.
forged from the same ball sack, but act as though they've never met. They are the brothers Garcia, Gorgeous George and Goes.
Get the radio channel numbers for NFL, NBA, and NHL games sent directly to your smart device. Go to SiriusXM.com/sportsnow, then click Add to Calendar. You'll even get links to listen directly on the SiriusXM app. That same SiriusXM app houses the MMA Junkie Radio Show, commercial-free and in HD quality if you ever missed it or miss a portion of the show. Same goes for the other shows on our channel, including the Luke Thomas Show, as well as At the Fights, Busted Open, MMA Tonight. All right, earlier we talked to the headliner. Now we're going to talk to the play-by-play announcer for LFA 30, which goes down on Friday. And, of course, like we've been saying, it's channel 340 if you have DirecTV. And if you don't know, then you got to check your local satellite and cable listings so you can get this dose of MMA that they serve up practically like 3 out of every 4 weeks, it seems like, is the pace that they have over there between the different organizations, but LFA being the main tenant, and occasionally they also dive into some Muay Thai. So you just got to get this channel. You got to get very familiar with Access TV, formerly HDNet, your home for
MMA
and
Muay Thai.
That's right. Ron Kruck is now the play-by-play announcer. He has been for at least the last year or so. He used to be Rovin' Ron, but now he's calling the fights along with his partner there, Pat Miletich, and he joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Ron? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Goes and George. Happy New Year to you, boys.
You too, sir. Yeah. Did you do anything to ring in the new year, or did you just play it safe and stay home?
You know, I was actually in
Nashville?
I have some friends that coach at the University of Kentucky, so we were down at the Music City Bowl.
Wow.
We came back on New Year's Eve, so took it pretty chill on New Year's Eve, that's for sure. But the Music City Bowl at Nashville, what an awesome place.
Hey, tell me real quick, who played in that game? Was it a good game?
It was a great game. It was Northwestern. It was a battle of Wildcats, Northwestern and Kentucky, and Kentucky scored with 30 seconds left. And my man, Mark Stoops, head coach, said, I'm going to go for two. And I love that attitude. That's how it should be in a bowl game. Went for two. Unfortunately, came up a little short.
Yeah, sometimes those gambles are worth it. I would have done the same thing. All right. And then, of course, before we get into this fight card, in the past, you know, we've given you your due. The Broncos have had a good run this year. It didn't work out for you guys, but what's the feeling like for next year? What kind of pieces do you have to add to the puzzle so you can compete next year?
And you guys were talking football.
Ron?
Yeah, listen, hey, you gave me airtime when the Broncos won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, so I will man it up, and I will talk about this horrendous season that was here in Denver. All-time low, to tell you the truth, boys, and there's not just one little piece. I think the biggest piece of the puzzle, of course, is quarterback.
Yeah.
They need to get a quarterback. When they lost Manning, they became like 20-some-odd other teams in the NFL. And I think the state of NFL quarterbacks right now in the league is at an all-time low. They have proven that Paxton Lynch, they have no faith in whatsoever. He's not the future. Trevor Siemian is too fragile. He's a great backup, but they need to get a quarterback. I'd like to see him before getting MMA. I'd like to see him go after an established guy. Although this could be the biggest year of quarterbacks drafted since 1983. I'd like to see him make a run at Eli Manning if he's cut, or Kirk Cousins, because it's just a wild card draft in these guys.
There you go. He's taking his medicine. He has talked when they've been at the top, and now he's addressing them when they're at their low. And, you know, it's funny because when they whooped the Cowboys, I thought, shit, that D's amazing, man. Denver's right back at it again. And then, of course, it didn't finish out that way. All right. But enough about that. Let's talk about LFA 30. We just had Curtis Millender on the show. He's headlining versus Nick Barnes. I mean, this guy, he's one of those human highlight films. I like to call him that, taking a page out of Dominique Wilkins and what he used to do back in the day when he was an NBA player. But seriously, you cannot take your eyes off this guy because he's an amazing striker.
without a doubt, you hit it. He is like Dominic. He is a human highlight. Dominguez coming off of one of the best head kick knockouts I've seen in a long time. Both Pat Miletich and myself freaked out cage side when he knocked out the very tough Matthew Franku at LFA 24 back in October. And he came into that fight, guys, and the critics were saying, hey, this guy can't finish fights. And, you know, there was some legitimacy to that statement because he hadn't been finishing fights. He made it clear. He predicted a head kick knockout, and he delivered. And that was just an incredible performance. He's so athletic. He went to 2-0 in the LFA and really put the entire welterweight division on notice. Now, he's got a tough matchup with Nick Barnes, who also is coming off an impressive win back at LFA 20. That was in August. He got a unanimous decision victory over Chad Curry, who is a top prospect. So this is a fun matchup. Barnes comes in at number 5 in our Access TV Fights rankings. Millender, number 4. The talk is the winner should be getting an LFA welterweight title shot next. Of course, the current champion, James Nakashima. He's on the sidelines for a little while, dealing with an injury, but that puts a lot on the line here at LFA 30 this Friday night. It's going to be a huge fight. It's going to be an incredible way to start off what's going to be a major year on Access TV Fights.
Let's talk about the co-main event as well. A couple Latinos mixing it up here. Could Fernando Padilla be that next Mexican fighter that everyone will be talking about pretty soon, coming in at 10-1 versus Talison Soares Costa, the Brazilian, at 9-2? Both submission machines, but it looks like Padilla's also got a few KOs on his resume.
Yeah, but Padilla, he proved to us that he is on the ground, and he is as slick as they come. He's coming off a big win. He pulled off a triangle submission of Derek Minner back at LFA 25. As you mentioned, 10-1. This is a kid you want to keep an eye on. Padilla is only 21 years old. He left his friends and family behind in Mexico to pursue this MMA dream. This guy is on a mission. He went 4-1 last year, with all wins coming by way of stoppage. But if you like the ground game, I think this matchup with Soares is going to be because, as you mentioned, he's in a BJJ black belt. 8 of his 9 wins have come in the first rounds. A fun guy to watch. He's never been to a decision before. This will be his LFA debut, so first time on Access TV. He's excited to put on a show. I love this matchup, and if you like submissions, this one's for you.
Ron Kruck, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He is the play-by-play announcer for Access TV Fights. And, of course, Access TV Fights this Friday starts the year off with LFA 30, headlined by Curtis Millender and Nick Barnes. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Channel 340. If you have DirecTV, that's the Access TV channel. Otherwise, check your satellite and cable listings so you can get your hands on some great fights. This channel's been delivering for about a dozen years now. And other fighters that you may have heard of, like Charlie Alaniz, who was on the reality show The Ultimate Fighter. Christian Aguilera, local fighter that I've seen fight many times. Goes and I have called his fights out at Bama. He's also on the card. All right, let's talk. Let's have the co-hosts here chime in. Goes, what do you have for Ron Kruck?
Ron, sometimes we'll get fighters here on the show, and they'll talk about some changes that they made in their career, whether it's new camps or diet changes, and these are things that they've done that have allowed them to succeed a little bit more in their career. As a play-by-play guy, has there ever been an adjustment that you made in your career that changed your game instantly?
Ron, you with us? Hello?
Yeah, guys. Goes, great question. You know, if I feel, guys, if you're not continually evolving as a broadcaster, you're not going to do the fights justice. You know, this is our
Ron. You're kind of breaking up on us. Is there a better part of the building that you're in that you maybe can go to?
Sorry, guys. How's that?
Yeah. All right.
That adjustment definitely wasn't switching the sprint or something, huh, Ron?
Were you on a ski lift in Colorado or something like that, or?
You know what? I wish we could use some snow out here. But
okay. There you go. That's a little better. We got you.
You got me now?
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay. You know, to answer your question, I think if you're not continually evolving as a broadcaster, that then you're not doing the sport or giving your audience what they deserve. This is our 15th year going into covering combat sports on HDNet and Access TV now, and you know, this is going to be another new role for me. I mean, I've reinvented myself there several times. You know, I have done play-by-play for Glory and for Access TV and CBS Sports, but this will be the 40 events will be the most that I have ever done in my career. So, yeah, you know, it's just getting reps in, and with a completely new broadcast team this year. You know, Pat Miletich, of course, UFC Hall of Famer, have worked together, but we'll be doing 40 events. I think that this year, or at the end of last year, we really hit a stride and got our chemistry, and we've added Phoenix Carnevale from New York and the East Coast, who is going to do the post-fight interviews, and she's been a great asset to the team. So we gelled at the end of last year. We're excited to roll into what could be the biggest year on Access, over 100 hours of broadcasting of combat sports, and it's just an exciting time.
Ron, I know that sometimes you have to be so focused in calling fights, and that sometimes the night can just be a blur at the end of the night. When you go back and you look at some of these fighters that now you've seen them 2-3 times, when you go back and research some of their fights, does all that information come back to you like it was just yesterday, or does it remain somewhat of a blur and you have to watch it again?
Well, number one, I'm old, so everything with my memory is kind of a blur these days, boys. You know, with so many events, you know, some of the fights on the early part of the evening and the undercard, yeah, they can be kind of a blur. But when I start to do my research, you know, it comes back to, oh yeah, this kid had a great performance, or this guy, you know, just a crazy stand-up type of fighter. But it has been very cool for me, you know, going from Inside MMA covering the UFC full time to back to the LFA and you know, the beginning of the careers of a lot of these fighters, and covering the LFA, to learn more about these young fighters. And it's been incredible to see what the LFA has done, putting 29 LFA fighters into the UFC last year. And now, you know, I still do some features for Access TV Fights, and I love to tell those stories. You know, we got done shooting a feature on this 19-year-old girl, Macy Barber, who's 2-0 in the LFA, and her nickname's The Future. She is definitely the future of the sport. She will be featured up in Dallas in February, fighting again against Catherine Roy. So, you know, to me, this is the future of the sport. This league is something that the UFC depends on and needs. And, you know, they used to call it the college football to the NFL, but I don't even think that's accurate anymore, because college football has changed so much. You're not getting these offenses and quarterbacks who are being trained to move into the NFL. It's a different game. That's not the case with the LFA and the UFC. This is the spot to, if you want to get to the big show, you come in, you get on national TV, you put on a show, you get victories, and that's when you move on to the UFC.
You know, Ron, I'm glad you brought up Macy Barber. I'm looking at your Twitter now, and it looks like you got to do some fun stuff, some shooting some guns, some bow hunting. You pick up some tricks out there in Fort Collins?
And by the way, Ron, you changed things around with Pat and adding Phoenix. This is Dan Tom, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't introduce him. He's our fight analyst. He's the latest addition to our show. So that was Dan's question.
Absolutely, Dan. No, I've seen you guys. I listen to you. I know what's going on with you guys. It's a great addition, but Macy Barber was a lot of fun. I hadn't shot a shotgun in probably over a decade, and that was fun. We did some clay pigeon shooting out on her ranch out in Fort Collins, and I have to admit, I was pretty impressed with my shelf. I went 6 for 8 hitting clay pigeons. Yep, but I got to give her props. She went 4 for 4, and our producer Jamie McClintock, the young kid, stepped in and went 4 for 4 too. So I guess the clay pigeons were a little slow that day. I don't know.
Nice. Well, staying on that note, anybody who's followed your career around knows you doing interactive or specialty kind of pieces like this is nothing new for you. You do a great job at that. But let me ask you. Obviously, there's probably a lot of stories that you can't share. But could you is there anything that comes to mind as far as, obviously you're in a position, you just talked about it, you're seeing these guys take the next step to the Bellators, to the UFCs, and you're very familiar with what you're seeing, obviously. But is there any stories of interacting with any of these young guns through the years that maybe you can share, or is kind of a cool little story in retrospect?
It's a good question. I think it's fun to, as I said, talk to these fighters early in their careers to find out what their goals are. And I'm glad you mentioned Bellator. I shouldn't just say that we're putting fighters in the UFC. It is Bellator as well. The stories, they're always different. I would say one that's more recently has stuck with me is the story of Eric Anders, the former linebacker at the University of Alabama, who's now 2-0 in the UFC. And we went down there, and he had his goals set out. He wanted to win the LFA title and then move on to the UFC, and he accomplished that. I think going back to his high school and talking to his coach was great to kind of put it in perspective of who he was. But that's what this this league is about again, is finding these guys and girls who are just starting, have interesting stories, have the talent, and just need to put it on display. And I have to admit that having Mick Maynard leave Legacy and go to the UFC as a matchmaker has been a big key too, because he knows this organization, of course, and he keeps an eye on it. So. But it is a little bittersweet, too, because I would have liked to have called a few more of Eric Anders' fights before he left. But that's me being a little, wanting to keep him on the network a little bit longer. But I understand that's not the point of the LFA.
And now he's headlining versus Lyoto Machida. So
right.
Anders has really
How about that?
kind of written the script. And I'll tell you one thing, man. When Ron was doing a lot of the roving, the one time I really wanted to place myself where he was at is when him and Eddie Alvarez and the family sat down for those Philly cheesesteaks.
Oh.
My mouth was watering. I was like,
yeah.
how do I teleport myself there and have one of those bad boys? But yeah, see,
and guys, he was training hard, so he ordered all those and really didn't eat any. So I think I killed 3 or 4 Philly cheesesteaks in that session.
Oh,
ridiculous!
There you go. All right, Ron. Well, listen, I will see you. I'm traveling to California for LFA 30, so I'll be seeing you. I'll stop by and say hello. And thanks for the time here on MMA Junkie Radio, previewing the card with us and doing a catch-up. It's always a pleasure, sir.
Guys, I appreciate it. Keep on doing what you guys do. You're the best in the business. I look forward to seeing you. And just, I say to your fans, give Access TV your eyeballs this year, because over, we're looking at 40 events. It's the future of the sport. We're going to have CES and LFA. So we're looking at launching a new show, Cage Side. Keep an eye out for that. And just a lot going on with MMA on Access TV. Boys, be good.
All right, thanks, Ron. Take care. All right, we're going to go from one guest to the next. We're ready to go, Chris?
Yep.
All right, our last guest of the day is Aaron Pico. Sticking with that SoCal theme, goes. Do you remember when we were living in Santa Ana?
Yeah, the mean streets of Santa Ana.
The mean streets of Santa Ana, where Aaron Pico's familiar with the mean streets of Santa Ana because he was at the Calvary Chapel School.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, went on to, wrestle at great heights. Representing the United States on many levels, and now he cuts his teeth at Bellator. He is going to be fighting at Bellator 192 at the Forum in Inglewood, California, and his opponent that night will be Shane Crutchen Joining us now on the hotline is Aaron Pico. What's up, Aaron? How you doing?
Hey, everything's good. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. We're from the mean streets of Santa Ana, bro. We know who you is. We know who you are. We read about you many times.
You guys are from Santana?
Yeah. A little bit more to that south side, that South Coast Metro side, but still, we claim the city.
I know exactly. I know exactly where that's at. I live in Whittier, so that's not too far from Santa Ana.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we kind of ruled more the Sears side of South Coast Plaza, right, George?
Pretty much, yeah.
That was our territory.
South Coast Plaza side was our side. Whittier's home to a lot of big-name athletes as well. I believe, De La Hoya's from there. I believe remember that shortstop for the Dodgers in Boston, Nomar Garciaparra?
Yeah.
I think he's from there as well.
Yeah.
I feel like we're leaving someone out, though.
I think there's a third.
Let me look it up.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, you're doing it. You get to fight at home. And we had another guest, Curtis Millender. He's doing LFA this weekend down in Orange County. He's headlining there. And I'm going to ask you the same question I asked him. How large will be your contingent at the Fabulous Forum in Inglewood, being that it's probably about a half-hour drive for friends and family?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I've never fought in my hometown, LA, so gonna have a lot of family there, friends, people from all over coming to watch me fight. So be able to sleep in their own bed and then wake up, get ready, and go to the fight is makes it a lot easier. So I'm excited, especially being at the forum, and just the overall card. I mean, it's a stacked card. They're gonna have a lot of good guys, local guys too, that are fighting. So it's gonna be a great night. I'm looking forward to it.
What is your routine, by the way, on fight day? Like, take us through waking up. You have a hearty breakfast. You keep it light, and then how do you start the process of just either chilling out or getting amped up? Like, how do you attack fight day personally?
Honestly, I just do what I do every day. Like every morning, I go and get my cold pressed juice and eat my breakfast and eat the same stuff that I pretty much eat every day. I mean, my eating is very, very good. I eat all organic, grass-fed meats and all kinds of stuff. So I stick to what my body knows. I don't go crazy or anything like that. So I just do the normal routine. Go get my cold pressed juice. Relax with the family. And I'd probably go and watch some movies, and then my favorite part getting ready for the fight is putting on my suit and walking down to the venue. That's how I know when it's game time. So nothing really crazy, just staying relaxed, and I go say a prayer at the church, and then I head on over to the fight.
I like that, like Rocky Balboa, huh? You stop by and get a blessing, or you do the whole mass?
No, I usually go when nobody's there. Usually there's nobody in, and I just go by myself and say a little prayer, and then I know it's on.
Quick little trivia here. You remember the name of the pastor or the name of the father? Or anybody? Yeah.
So I say it?
Yeah, go ahead and say it if you know.
Isn't it Father Carmine?
Father Carmine. No. That's right.
Yeah.
Did you know that, Aaron?
He just pulled up
or
to
was
the
that
church.
like old school for a young guy like you?
No, I should know that.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch the Rocky movies. I've been actually telling my family, man, I want to watch the Rocky movies, but I haven't gotten to it.
If you and I didn't share the same birthday, I would have hung up on you right now. You seriously have never seen the Rocky movies? You haven't seen any of them?
No, I've seen them. I want to rewatch them.
I thought he had never seen them.
Of course I've seen Rocky.
Oh, it's close.
Yeah, no way.
How's someone involved in combat sports never seen those classics? But alas, he goes. He's born on September 26th, so we share the same birthday.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so right away I'm now an even bigger Aaron Pico fan. Plus, he did some time on the mean streets of Santa Ana. How did Calvary Chapel become this wrestling powerhouse? Like, was it something about the coach? What drew great athletes to that school?
Well, back in the 90s, early 2000s, I mean, the Calvary Chapel has always had a great program with their great coach, John Azevedo. They had a lot of state championships as a high school. I attended there for 1 year when I was in junior high, and I did, there was Arson Alexander was the coach then, and we just I did a lot of practices there, and then I went to high school at St. John Bosco. I went there for 1 year, and then I went on to international wrestling.
Yeah, all right. Aaron Pico.
So I didn't spend too much time at Calvary Chapel, but they've had some great wrestlers. They produce a lot.
Aaron Pico, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. Goes, what do you have for Aaron Pico?
Aaron, I like that you mentioned that story about when you throw on that suit and how that's kind of like the switch that you flip. What about outside of MMA? Have you ever experienced anything that can match that high of competing?
Man, it's hard. It's the only thing I can describe the feeling and the rush that you get is when I was younger. I used to race motorcycles, and there's no other feeling than racing dirt bikes. That's a really good a good high and feeling. That's the only thing I can describe fighting is just when you're on a dirt bike trying to go as fast as you can. That's a pretty crazy feeling that not many people get to experience. So that's the only way I can describe it. The closest thing to fighting.
Our fight analyst Dan Tom has a question for you too, Aaron. Go ahead, Dan. What do you have?
Aaron, excited to watch you perform again, of course. But just curious, were you able to maybe get any tape or anything on your opponent, or even if you were, is that really not your thing? What's your breakdown on your upcoming opponent?
I think he's a tough guy. I think, of course, I always watch film. I don't get too far in depth in film session, but I watch him. I'm aware of him. I've watched a lot of stuff on it. My coach Antonio has he's always studying the opponent, so I think he's great. I think he obviously he's got a great record. He's 12-3. He's been in some battles, so he's a little bit older. He's a veteran, so he's a purple belt. I know that. So my whole game plan for this fight is just to stay calm, stay relaxed. And I know I've gone through every position that you can possibly go through with that, every scenario from you could possibly think of. So I'm prepared. I've got the greatest partners that I can think of, AJ and Key, Joey Davis, Baby Slice over there at the body shop. The most important thing, we got the greatest coach, I believe, in Antonio McKee. So we're ready. We're ready for everything.
Aaron Pico, he will be fighting on January 20th. This will be the first show for Bellator to launch 2018. It's Bellator 182, headlined by Douglas Lima and Rory McDonald. You also have Quinton Jackson and Chael Sonnen, who are part of the Heavyweight Grand Prix. Catch them on Paramount. It's now Paramount for the name of the channel. It's 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, January 20th, like I mentioned earlier. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Aaron Pico will be mixing it up with Shane Crutchin. Aaron, thank you so much for the time. Great to catch up with you, and good luck with the rest of your camp. We'll see you on January 20th at the Fabulous Forum in Inglewood.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. See you, buddy. Take care. All right. Big shout out to CJ for lining that one up, and to Sean from Access TV for lining up Ron Kruck. Let's take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. When we come back, we'll take a couple quick calls if we have them and touch on the latest news before we bounce. See you soon.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device. Then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel. You'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. Our last two guests, follow them on Twitter at Ron Kruck for Ron Kruck. That's RKRUCK. And then Aaron Pico makes it easy at Aaron Pico USA. Let's talk to Stanson and Cali. What's up, Stanson? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Samson.
Oh, Samson. What's up, Samson? How you doing?
Samson.
Pretty good, man. I'm just over here at the gym, and I was watching Bisping versus Gaston. And I think it's kind of messed up that, it kind of dampened Gaston's win. But, I know he just fought 3 weeks ago, but I think a fresh Michael Bisping, or any fighter fresh, he gets hit with that one shoe, they're getting put down. So, I'm kind of upset that, they almost act like that they're kind of real, Gaston win over Bisping. So
here's the thing, though. Bisping asked for the fight, from what we hear. And I think a lot of it had to do with that was probably just he took the loss to GSP. It hurt him, I think, mentally, physically, and he wanted to right the ship. He's even admitted so as much on his podcast. Hey, maybe I shouldn't have taken that fight, but he had a large part in when Anderson Silva fell out in raising his hand and volunteering. Now, of course, Dana White, we asked him about that at he had a scrum session, with a lot of reporters when we were basically previewing the tough finale. And I remember him saying, "Hey, listen." I asked him, are you sure? And of course, you got to get the medicals done. And, there was a little bit of pressure to get it all done. But he said, hey, listen, this guy came to me. We had himself get checked out, and he passed. And so off he was to Shanghai. It all happened really, really quick.
Absolutely. I think it's a legitimate fight. I think Gaston hits anybody with that 1-2 at that angle, at that velocity, they're all going down. So, I don't put an asterisk next to that win. That's a knockout.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry I haven't called in for a while, guys. I was listening on the podcast this morning, and my 4-year-old's in the back singing along with Phil Watson saying,
oh, you got to videotape that for us.
Yeah, if you don't mind, and then tag us on Twitter at MMA Junkie George, at MMA Junkie Radio, at The Goes, at Dan Tom MMA. We got to move on, though, Samson. It's the end of the show, but thank you so much for calling in. It's great to hear from you. But please, tape your kid doing that, man. That sounds pretty funny.
Will do, man.
All right, we'll see you.
Thanks, Samson.
All right, folks. We have to start wrapping up here. Big shout-out to Chris for filling in for Danny. In fact, I liked him so much, tell Danny to take a few more days off. I'm sticking with Chris.
Wow.
I'm flattered, right? Guys.
That's what he'd say.
Wow. All right. No, listen. Danny, I think, will be back tomorrow. Again, thank you to Curtis Millender, Jordan Rinaldi, Ron Kruck, and Aaron Pico
30
for their time here on the show. Tomorrow we'll be back. We haven't gotten our guest list all set, but keep an eye on social media. I'm sure we'll put it out there. And, of course, the preview's up every morning on MMAJunkie.com. And you should keep it locked on MMAJunkie.com because our writers are hustling every day to give you the best coverage in mixed martial arts. So for Chris and Goes and Dan, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be champions.
Put the train